You ever think you've finally made it out, finally outrun all the noise only to step right into a hornet's nest? That's what happened to me. 10 years of grinding away in a cubicle jungle, barely catching my breath, then out of nowhere I inherit my grandfather's ranch. 1,000 acres of air so clean it could knock you over, sky so big it could swallow your worries. I drove out there thinking I'd finally found my quiet, that kind of soul-soothing silence you only hear in your bones. But get this, the first thing greeting me wasn't a warm sunrise or a whiff of hay. No, sir. It was a big, fat, canary yellow violation notice taped right to the old barn door like some kind of ransom note. Didn't even get a chance to take the keys out of my truck. And at the bottom, signature from Marla Kensington, President, Juniper Ridge, HOA. 5 hours on my family's land and already somebody's staking claim. I laughed. Honest to God, I stood there and laughed. Figured it was a prank. Then I met Marla. Picture this, arms crossed, sunglasses so big they could double as shields, standing on the other side of my own fence like a border guard. She hit me with this line all frosty. This road is under HOA jurisdiction. You'll need approval to use it. My own road on my own ranch, and she's acting like I'm trespassing in my own damn backyard. What Marla didn't know was the ground she strutted on in those designer sandals didn't belong to her HOA anymore. Whole community perched on a 100-year lease, one that had expired. Legally, all of it had slipped back into my hands while they were busy printing violation forms and holding meetings about mailbox colors. I looked at her, trying not to grin. She had no idea the ground had just shifted right out from under her. Growing up out here was like living in the middle of a living legend. My grandfather, Warren Adler, he didn't just tell stories, he wrote them with sweat and barbed wire and handshakes that actually meant something. Bought the ranch when he was 26, scrimped every dime from cattle auctions and welding jobs until he could plant his flag on this sun-baked land. And man, he respected it. Treated it like something holy, something you cared for and handed down in better shape than you got it. Summers as a kid, I was his shadow. Learned more about reading clouds, fixing fences with nothing but wire and spit than any city job could teach me. Grandpa's big 3 rules: respect the land, respect your neighbors, never let bullies take root. I didn't really get that last one until Eldon showed up. I saw Eldon the morning after the HOA notice. Old-timer denim shirt faded by more summers than I'd seen, just leaning on his mailbox like he was holding up the sky. Quiet nod as I walked by. "You must be Warren's grandson," he said, voice all gravel but warm. When his eyes softened, I knew he'd known my grandfather better than I ever did. He was a good man. They don't make 'em like that anymore. We did the usual small talk, weather cows, how the new guy's getting on, until his eyes kept darting toward Juniper Ridge. The so-called community, right in the middle of my ranch. I asked, gentle like, "You live over there?" He just shrugged. "For now." Sounded more like a sentence than a choice. Then he told me, voice so soft it might have been the wind, about his wife. June gone last winter, 64 years together. She loved the garden, the neighbors, all of it. But Marla made sure it wasn't home anymore. And just like that, Eldon's words started to tumble out. Not out of spite, not even anger, just relief, like finally setting down a heavy box. Marla fined him $75 a day for an old red tractor, his and June's project from decades ago, because it was aesthetic clutter. More fines. More threats. Even after June got sick, Marla kept coming. After June passed, it got worse. Noise violations for running a generator after storms, threats for not mowing the lawn while he was grieving, rejected appeals, legal letters, upholding community standards, Marla called it. Eldon called it what it was, cruelty dressed up in policy. Standing there listening, I felt something cold settle in my chest. It wasn't incompetence I was dealing with, it was a pattern. I started noticing it everywhere, shutters snapping shut when Marla's golf cart rolled by, neighbors ducking inside a town that looked picture perfect but was holding its breath. Warren kept them in line, Eldon said. But once he was gone, Marla saw an opening and took it. That's when I finally understood what Grandpa meant all those years ago. Quiet places aren't always peaceful. Sometimes they're just waiting for someone to speak. Standing there beside a man broken not by life but by the people claiming to protect it, I realized this wasn't about a ticket on my barn. It was about every person who'd been steamrolled by Marla's little regime. On the 3rd morning, things almost felt normal. Early coffee, cool breeze, birds carving the sky. I thought I'd let it go. Then I heard the telltale whine of a golf cart. Here comes Marla, sunglasses blazer, a look on her face like she built this ranch with her own 2 hands, blocking my truck with her official HOA vehicle. Sir, this road is private. You are not authorized to drive heavy equipment through a community access lane. Ma'am, I said, leaning out the window, this is my road. She just laughed, one of those brittle, high-pitched laughs that make your jaw clench. No, this is Juniper Ridge Scenic Lane. You're not your grandfather. You don't have rights here. She called in her backup 2 compliance officers, Brent and Lionel, who looked like they'd been waiting all their lives to wear vests and wield clipboards. Brent, with a V-neck that should have been a crime, rattled off violations. Lionel threatened $500 daily fines retroactive to the day I set foot on the land. And that's when it clicked. These people weren't just confused, they were convinced. Convinced the ranch was theirs, convinced their rules mattered, convinced I was just some trouble to stamp out. But I had a card up my sleeve, the lease. That ancient, ironclad document giving me all the leverage they thought they had. After their little show, I headed straight into town to see Julia Bington, my grandfather's attorney, sharp as a whip, the kind of woman who could stare down a rattlesnake and make it blink first. So you've met the HOA, she said with a half smile. I told her everything. She just nodded and slid a thick folder across her desk. Original lease, county stamps, every document I'd only ever heard about in family stories. 100-year lease, she said. Expired 6 months ago. Your grandfather made sure not to renew it. The land's yours again, every road, every greenbelt, all of it. The homeowners own their houses, but not the land underneath. Turns out Julia's office had sent 5 certified letters to the HOA warning them the lease was ending. Nobody answered. They'd been hiding the truth from their own community. Julia laid it out: if the HOA wanted to keep running things, they'd have to negotiate with me. If not, I could shut them out. I didn't want a war. I wanted peace for people like Eldon. But Julia warned me people like Marla don't negotiate. They escalate. That warning came true the very next morning. I heard gas-powered engines near the south pasture, right where Grandpa and I had planted a row of pecan saplings after my dad died. I ran down heart-pounding and found HOA workers in yellow vests, chainsaws in hand, 3 of those saplings already on the ground. The woman with the clipboard told me all suite emergency access standards, sir. I stared, barely able to speak. You're on my land. Marla showed up with her phone recording, daring me to threaten her. She didn't stop when I told her to. She just smirked, called out her orders, watched them cut down memories like weeds. That was it for me. I realized plain as day if I didn't draw a line now, she'd take whatever she wanted. So I rebuilt my fences. Higher, clearer, stronger. Eldon came by just to watch a flicker of hope in his eyes. I set up trail cameras. Figured if they wanted to keep pushing, I'd be ready. Didn't take long. Third night, my phone buzzed, camera alert. 3 guys in dark clothes pulling up my brand new fence posts carrying a red fuel can. I grabbed my shotgun, not because I wanted a fight, but because I wasn't about to let anyone burn my barn to the ground. I caught them red-handed, told them to leave, and when they hesitated, I pointed out the cameras. You're live right now, I said. That did it. They bolted, leaving a phone behind cracked screen open to a text from MK, do it tonight. Payment released. Mara Kensington. I took that phone straight to the sheriff. Handed it over, no drama. Deputy looked at the messages and just nodded. We've never had evidence this clear. The sheriff's office started poking around quietly, and Julia got busy drafting notices to the whole community. Mandatory meeting, real legal language this time, no HOA letterhead. I watched the town wake up like someone pulled the fire alarm. At the meeting, Julia spelled it out. Old maps, original lease signatures, everything. As of 6 months ago, the land beneath Juniper Ridge belongs to Adler Ranch. A tidal wave of panic hit neighbors, realizing their board had been lying, covering up spending down reserve funds on bogus consulting fees paid to Marla's cousin. Emails flashed up on the screen, Marla telling her board to ignore the expired lease lie to homeowners, stall for time. When it all came out, the room exploded. Shouts, accusations. People finally saw who was holding them hostage, and it wasn't me. The county board called an emergency hearing. The place was packed. Ranchers, reporters, neighbors who'd never cared about governance until their homes were on the line. Eldon, bless him, got up and told the story of June, of the fines, of the flowers that brought her joy at the end, and the threats that broke her heart. Young parents shared about the $50 fines for building a ramp for their disabled daughter. Story after story, the room changed. People weren't just mad, they were awake. Finally, Marla got her turn. All bluster, no humility. Without me, this community would fall apart. I kept property values high, but the truth was out. The board had been warned, had lied, had used fear to control people who just wanted to live. The county set a deadline 30 days to reach a fair deal with me or lose utility access. A recall petition started right then and there. And karma. Oh, it's real. Sheriff Porter showed up 2 days later, warrant in hand. Marla's own treasurer, cracked under the pressure, handed over every damning document, bank statements, emails, notes. Marla tried to talk her way out, but the evidence was a mountain. Fraud, conspiracy, falsifying records. Handcuffs clicked and the whole neighborhood watched her get loaded into the cruiser. She shouted about regret, about chaos without her, but nobody even answered. 6 months later at the trial, every ugly detail came out. Eldon spoke, the young mother cried, the treasurer told how Marla ordered him to lie. Julia put the lease, the notices, the sabotage attempt all up on the record. The investigator confirmed it, Marla had known everything. When the guilty verdict came, she just shrank into herself. Not a queen, not a leader, just another person who thought power was the same as ownership. Juniper Ridge voted almost unanimously to dissolve the HOA after that. The new association, voluntary, neighborly, no fines, no committees, with more rules than sense. Eldon became the caretaker of the old community barn. Now Ranch Commons restored, open to everyone, kids running through pecan saplings, laughter ringing out where fines used to. The land breathed again. Honest, open, free. One evening, as the sun dipped over the hills, I found a note in my grandfather's desk. Land remembers the ones who respect it. And it hit me. He wasn't talking about fences or borders. He was talking about stewardship, about standing up when fairness needs a backbone. That's what justice is, not loud, not vengeful, just earned. Even after all this, I still wonder, where's the line between order and control, between leadership and tyranny? What would you have done if it was your home, your neighbor, your land on the line? Tell me down in the comments, what's justice to you? Ever had to stand up to a bully in disguise? Because sometimes all it takes is one person to draw a line in the dirt and remind everyone what belongs to who.
Cảm ơn các bạn đã xem video.